Hey guys, today is Monday, April 21st, 2020, and thanks for joining me. I just want to give you a little update, kind of similar to the last video, but I'm somewhat more coherent because it's the middle of the day, not the middle of the night. So I've finished my second project. I've been successful in selling that to a couple of different customers now, and by the volume of that, I'm generating the returns that I'm looking for to really substantiate my operation, which is good. Now, being this early in the game, I am immediately reinvesting every dollar that I make back into the operation. Equipment has been a big thing. Buying a computer, buying the monitors, the stand. I mean, literally just down to the desk and the chair, the place to do these things. It's not just convenience, it's going to be speed, efficiency, functionality as well, just by virtue of what I do. And I'll kind of bring some of that to you here in a bit. I know I haven't gone into great depth about what it is that I do with these estimates and these takeoffs, and what it is I'm providing to my customer base and the value of that. I haven't really expounded on that, so I'm going to do that here in the near future, so that maybe you can get a little insight into what it is that I'm doing. But the business is rocking and rolling, which is really good. I'm making some pretty good money on the side in that. At the time that I'm putting in, only part-time, if I were to make the jump to do this full-time, it appears as though it would support my family and my lifestyle. So that's excellent. It's been the proof in the pudding in that regard. But there's a lot of things I've got to consider now. So this particular project is a ways away. I'm in Oroville, which is about an hour and a half north of Sacramento. And the job I just did is in Monterey, which is like a 5.5 hour drive if I were to go there. So my customer base, people who would be performing work in that area, are also a ways away from me. So I've been reaching out to potential clients in that area. I do have one of them who's interested in purchasing the project, but they're all the way down there. And mind you, we're going through all of the social distancing and restrictions, travel restrictions with coronavirus right now. Not to mention, I don't feel like driving 6 hours to go pick up a check. So now I've got to start thinking about how do I want to receive payment from these people, because the information I provide is really time sensitive. They want to get it in their hands very soon, but I don't want to give them everything that I have without having their payment in hand either. If it's in the mail per se, I don't want to become a collector. I don't even want to run into the circumstance where I give them the information, they never actually come through, and then we just never do business again. So I have to start looking into how to do some of these transactions where I can accomplish those not in person. I can do credit cards. I can set up a few different things. What's came to my mind was doing an online store, and I ventured having an e-commerce setup on my website, which I don't currently have, where I'd have a store and the different projects that I've worked on and all the documents I provide for that would be available. They'd have a price and they could go in there, they could pay with their credit card or do whatever, and then after the execution or completion of that transaction, they'd receive a link to that information. Now, I like that idea. I think it's professional. I think it's easy, which is going to, for the consumer, which is adding value to that process, is going to, again, add value and favor to my business. But the setup for that, to have it on my own domain website, was expensive. So if you've been sticking with me, my original website was $600. To do the e-commerce online store was a $3,000 setup. Not bad. So my first website was way cheaper than I thought it was going to be, so that was a good thing. So $3,000 for this edition. I was hoping it would be surprisingly cheap like the last one was, and it wasn't, because there's clearly more legwork involved with setting all of that information up. It's not free, and I don't just mean setting up the website, but to do those transactions, you need some kind of third-party conduit, if you will, to handle that. And there's a gajillion of them out there. You know, there's things like PayPal, and you can do Square. Stripe is apparently a really common one. There's a whole bunch of other things, but they all have their different fees. Sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's a percentage. Sometimes it varies based on what your revenue is you're actually processing through them. There's a whole bunch of variables to it, and it's crazy. So even just a little highlight, looking at Facebook, you can set up an online store on Facebook pretty easily, and they use Stripe to process, but doing it through Facebook, they take 5% of your transaction. Whereas if I set up my own online store and Stripe was the transaction third-party processor, it's like 2 or 3% or somewhere in that ballpark. But Facebook, ease of use, and they take more. I'm inclined to believe Shopify is somewhere along the same lines. You can easily set up your own online store, but they're going to take a little bit more because they sort of provide the whole package to do things online a little easier. So there is ease of use is where they're getting a higher return, if you will, on their service. So I'm thinking all these things through as well. I haven't resolved any of those things yet, but you know what? These are all of the considerations, if you will, all of the things that I'm going through and figuring out, planning, strategizing while working, after working my regular job. And this is the reality of starting your own business. You wear 1,000 different hats. But I've really liked it. I've enjoyed it. I like planning. I like problem solving, if you will, and owning your own business, especially in the early stages, gives you no shortage of things to think about, plan for, and problems to solve. And it's a nice break from doing the work as well. So I don't know. It's been fun. I've really enjoyed it. Which is what some of the things I think draws most of us to an entrepreneurial mindset, right? It's a mentality. It's a lifestyle. You're kind of driven, and you think outside the box, and you want to find ways to capitalize on exactly those characteristics that you have. And if you've been watching, it's stressful. It's tiring, it's exhausting, but it's rewarding. It's really, I've enjoyed it, right? The work you put into it is just purely draining. But when you execute that sale, when you make a customer happy, when you start generating revenue, when you're in control of that, it's extremely rewarding. That's definitely the carrot at the other end of that stick, if you will. That success that you've generated for yourself is it's a unique feeling, and I think that's why the community of entrepreneurs are the way that they are. And if you're watching this, hopefully maybe you have some of that too. And I really genuinely truly hope that anything of any of my updates, my whole progress, my whole story is enlightening for you, it's helpful for you, and I hope that any of you who have been there and have some advice, perspective on the other side, things you can help me out with, throw it out there, because I would really appreciate it. And so as always, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them to this video, and I'll try to respond. Thank you for sticking around. Be sure to subscribe. There's a lot more to come, and I really appreciate it. Have a good day.